Hello, my name's Simon Gray. I'm a qualified accountant, career coach and the author of 3 books, including Super Secrets of the Successful Job Seeker, published by Harriman House. In the previous video, I introduced you to the hidden markets, the place where high probability career opportunities always exist and where employers are looking for talent, usually before approaching job boards or recruitment companies. Finding success in the hidden market is all about focus. You have to be really clear about what you want and then communicate with employers and those who can introduce you to employers of interest in a way that resonates with them. Without being limited by what you think is possible or by what you see advertised, now is the time to decide what it is you really want to do. Just because an employer isn't advertising doesn't mean that they're not hiring, and you don't have to be limited by the jobs recruiters put in front of you. Instead of being reactive, now's the time to be proactive about your next step. It's your career and your future, no one else's. You have the power to decide on the type of organisation and individual you want to work for and where they're based. Instead of settling for a job, you have the power to decide on the job and the future career you really want. I worked with Elfie, a private coaching client of mine recently, and she wasn't clear on her next move and surfing job boards for opportunities very similar to what she was currently doing. She didn't realise that she had the power to choose her next step. I asked her a series of questions to help her think proactively about her career, and this focused her attention on what she really wanted and what could be possible. The process of going through this exercise generated excitement about her next move, and she realised she would be happier in a smaller organisation where she'd have more autonomy and the power to implement change. Knowledge is power, and not knowing what she wanted using the Career Codex methodology, she found this opportunity in the hidden market. The 3 questions I asked Elfie, and the 3 questions you need to ask yourself before deciding on what I call your destination, are as follows. First off, why are you looking for a job? People experience push and pull factors when making a decision to enter the job markets. An example of a push factor is, say, redundancy. Perhaps you were pushed to leave your current position as your role ceased to exist. An example of a pull factor could be excitement at the prospect of entering a different industry sector. Perhaps the grass looks greener and you're keen to apply the expertise you've gained in your current sector in a completely different environment. Sometimes push and pull factors can be one and the same. They combine to reinforce an urge to action and as such can have more power. For example, a situation where you believe your skills are underutilized in your current role, the push, and have seen a position advertised where you can put your skills and experience to better use, the pull. You need to understand your motivations for change, and a potential employer will want to understand these too. Pull factors tend to be far more positive than the things to focus on. Even if you're not currently looking for a job, perhaps now is the time to be doing so. Are you satisfied in your current role, or do you have a burning desire to move your career forward in a different direction? Related to the question, why are you looking for a job? Consider, what do you really want from your career? What do you really want from your career? Many years from now, looking back on your life, what would you like to have done or achieved in your career? What would you have achieved? Where would you have worked? How much would you have earned? And how would your decisions have impacted the quality of your life? During my time in recruitment, when meeting a new candidate, why are you looking for a job was one of the first questions I always asked. More often than not, a better salary or wanting to earn more money were given as the initial explanation. But digging deeper, financial reward was rarely the real reason. Needing a new challenge, job fulfillment, or a desire to feel more passionate about their work were often the real catalyst for their visit. Knowing what you want is liberating. It gives you focus and the freedom to make an informed choice on what your next step will look like. In my experience, people often say yes to a position because it happens to be the one available and right in front of them right now. But this doesn't mean it's the right move and something they should consider. Knowing what you want not only focuses your attention, it helps you inform others around you who can help you make this move. Many of the executives I coach are at a senior level in their careers already, but consider this question for the first time. The earlier on in your career you begin to ask the right questions, the sooner you'll find yourself on the right path, the path you choose. The second question is, who do you want to work for? If you had the choice, and remember, you do have a choice who you would like to work for, who would it be? The who can be a company or a type of individual or both. What's important is that you define it clearly and concisely. Think about what size of organisation, what sector and in what location. Be cognizant of your current skills and experience and where they may best fit. Once Elfie asked herself this question, she was clear about the type of organisation she should be approaching in the hidden markets, and also the ones she shouldn't. This knowledge helped her craft a personal brand on LinkedIn and an approach to decision makers that had a higher probability of resonating with them. Final question, what type of job do you want? In your next role, what skills will you be using and what types of responsibilities will you have? Take a moment to visualize this now. Remember though, it's not just about the skills you have now, it's also important to think about the skills you wish to develop in the future. Advancing your skills builds on your experience and will help you transition to another opportunity further down the track. It's the fuel essential for career progression. This is one of the reasons you should never take a job just because of a starting salary. There has to be a bigger reason. If you've not considered these questions before, now is the time to do so. Focusing your attention on what you want in all areas of life is proven to help you find it. Also, if you're clear about your next step, you'll be better able to convince an employer what you really want to do and that you really want to work for them, which is often just as important as their assessment of the skills and experience you bring to the table. Being clear on what you want empowers you to uncover and sometimes even create opportunities in the hidden market. For example, if you decide that it's a technology business, say in central Bristol, you want to work for, you can then start researching these organisations. You can do this through a multitude of different means and identify a list of target organisations that you'd like to get in front of. Nowadays, LinkedIn can be very helpful in this research and also a great way to start an initial conversation. Whether the organisations on your list are actively recruiting or not is not relevant. What is relevant is that you have a genuine interest in working for them and a value proposition to present. Instead of waiting for a job to be advertised or a recruiter to phone you up, there is nothing to stop you approaching an employer directly. Employers are always on the lookout for talent. I remember from the last video, they find the recruitment process painful, time-consuming and costly. But here's a very important point. Your approach in the first instance at least should never be about you and your need for a job. In the first instance, it has to be all about them. Even with a direct approach, many make the mistake of just sending in their CV, then sitting back and waiting for something to happen. But this is rarely enough to make you stand out. Instead, through your research, think about what the employer is currently doing, what you could make reference to, and where you could potentially add value. This is a much better conversation starter than a general inquiry as to whether they're recruiting. My advice is to think about the problem or opportunity that is keeping the CEO or CFO awake at night and start there. It's different, it stands out, and what's more, it works. Asking yourself the right questions to get focused also helps you communicate with a special type of individual I call market makers. These are well-connected individuals in a particular profession, industry, sector or geography. For example, a non-executive director who sits on a number of boards or someone who runs a networking group. I've been a non-executive director and also ran for a number of years a business networking group with over 100 member organisations. I was often on the receiving end of conversations 1 and 2 when employers were putting feelers out in the market to hire. Building relationships with market makers is another way to position yourself in the hidden markets. So in this video and the one before, I've explained a bit about the hidden markets and also how and why it's important to get clear on what you want. In the next video, I'm going to explain the proactive methodology I've developed, which has helped job seekers from across the world define, find and secure the positions they really want. I'll reveal the 4 pillars of success, the inside track of what it really takes to take proactive control of your career to stand out and get hired.